So now let's take it step by step. The first dialogue, verses 25 to 28. This expert in the law, we might say a lawyer, is nevertheless more than a lawyer, because the law in which this man was an expert was the law of God. So he was a lawyer, but he was a theologian. After all, under the Roman rule, there was a fair bit of liberty to run things your own way in each of the territories that Rome governed. So in ancient Israel, under the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate at the time, there was a council of 72 people, the Sanhedrin, 70 or 72, made up of learned aristocrats and priests and scholars and so on. And these were regularly lawyers. That is, they were experts in the law. But the law in which they were expert was, in fact, what we call the books of Moses, the law of God. So he was a lawyer theologian, and we're told he came to ask Jesus a question. He stood up, we're told. Now, in those days, most teaching circumstances had both the teacher and the students all sitting down. And then if a person wanted to ask a question, he stood up to address the teacher as a mark of respect. Now, it's hard for us to imagine that today in our culture. That's just not the way we treat teachers. I know, I'm a teacher. But I've been in some parts of the world where it's a bit different. In many parts of Korea, for example, students are basically told not to look up at the teacher and look him right in the face. That could be seen as a challenge. You keep your head down, and you take down everything he says. You keep your note on your paper, and so you learn to regurgitate a great deal of material, but you don't challenge the teacher directly. So when they come to the West and have to start a doctoral program where the first thing you have to do is learn how to argue, they find it really difficult because they find this just rude to begin with. They're not in a place where they feel ready to challenge a teacher. Well, you need to understand then that when this man stands up, culturally, he is standing up as a mark of respect. And yet the text says that's not what he was really doing. He stands up, we're told, to test Jesus. In other words, he was a hypocrite. It turns out that it's not all that uncommon in the Gospels for people to ask questions of Jesus where they're not really trying to find answers. They're trying to score points or even make trouble. In 2020, for example, keeping a close watch on him, they sent spies who pretended to be sincere. They hoped to catch Jesus in something he said so that they might hand him over to the power and authority of the governor. So the spies questioned him and asked him certain questions that were traps. Now, it's not that bad in a classroom today, in general, but nevertheless, those of us who are teachers at whatever level, from junior high all the way to graduate students, there are some students who ask questions not because they're trying to learn something, but because they're trying to score points, or see if they can outwit the teacher, or put him down, or get a laugh, or something like that. This probably has even more malicious intent. In any case, that is the setup, and now he asks his first question. Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Well, it's a slightly bizarre question. You might think that you inherit something, first of all, by being born into the right family. It's not something you do. It happens to you. But the notion of inheriting eternal life was a pretty common Jewish way of talking about receiving consummated life on the last day. But now the presupposition that this man has is that if you do the right things, or perhaps enough of them, then you will be qualified to inherit eternal life. That's what you have to do to inherit eternal life.